Welcome, everybody. Good evening. I hope you can all hear me. My name is Elizabeth McClellan. I'm president and founder of Partners for World Health, and we want to welcome you to our beginning of our Global Health Education Series for 2021. But before I start, I just want to talk a little bit about some of the upcoming events that we're having here at PWH. So we're having tonight, we're going to be listening to Adrian Levesque talking about his program that he's been working on in Guatemala. But in February, we have Dr. Kirchi and Dr. Kardik from both. Dr. Kirchi is from Maine Medical Center, retired pediatric surgeon, and Kardik is a pediatric surgeon over there, and they're going to be talking about surgery in low-income, underdeveloped countries in February. That's February 25th. And then on March 25th, we're moving to India, and Dr. Mahadevan, radiation oncologist, will be speaking with his colleague who's a surgical oncologist who started an oncology surgical center in Chennai in India, and they'll be presenting about cancer care in that part of the world. Also in March, we are going to celebrate International Women's Day on March 8th, and we are going to have a panel, 2 hours, 6 to 8 o'clock on March 8th with 3 women that are involved in different countries in Africa. More information on this will be coming to everybody, but the title is Empowered Women That Are Helping to Empower Women Throughout Our World, and it will be a panel discussion, introductions of these 3 great women that are doing great things, and then the panel discussion. Also, we want to remind everybody about our art auction. We are hosting a virtual art auction the first week in May, and there'll be more information coming about that. But if anyone's out there that is an artist or knows of artists that might be interested in sharing or donating a piece of artwork to us, we would really appreciate that. Please have them give us a call at the office or call me directly. We also have in first week in March, we are going to have an informational session on the PWH Medical Mission Program. Unfortunately, we have had to cancel our medical missions for January, February, March, and April because of COVID. However, our program is still on, and if you're interested in seeing where we're going for the balance of the year, you can find out about that on our website under medical missions. But that evening, which we will let everybody know, it'll be open to the public, and we're going to talk about the different countries where we provide medical missions, and also the different projects that we do in those specific countries, like primary care or surgery or Project 10,000. And that will give everyone some information about what our program is all about, and then how you go, how you apply and become involved in it. Let's see. Oh, another thing, we are in dire need of personal care items like soap and shampoo, and the little pieces of soap and shampoo, because our sewers have been making blue wrap personal care bags out of blue wrap, sewing these up, and then we have a tie, and we've been filling them up with personal care items, and we're running low. So if any of you would like to collect soap or shampoo or any of those things, toothbrushes, small toothpaste, etc., and want to bring them down, we'd really appreciate that. We have nearly given away 1,000 blue wrap personal care bags to almost every state here in New England for different social service agencies, to homeless shelters. Up in Vermont, they gave away 300 bags. So this has been a really great project for people to get involved with so that we can give back to our community. And we want to thank you for all the sewers out there that were sewing these bags and sewing our masks and sewing our gowns this year, especially all through 2020 as we dealt with the COVID pandemic. And the other thing, that we are always in need of supplies, as you know. Doctors' stools are right up there on the top of the list these days, and defibrillators. So if you happen to be working in a hospital or you know anyone that has some biomedical equipment that they might be moving on, remember to have them give us a call first before they decide to take it to the landfill. We definitely don't want it to end up in the landfill. So we are going to start our presentation shortly, but a few bits of information at the end. If you are all still with us, we also have door prizes. This is one of them. This is a basket from Bangladesh. We have a vase from Peru right here, and we also have a leather-bound journal as well. So all of your names will be put in a hat or in a basket here. Here's our basket. This basket is originally from Saudi Arabia, made by the women, made by the Bedouins. And your name will be in here, and we'll draw names for those 3 presents at the end of the presentation. And then we'll either mail it to you if you live far away, or you can come in and swing by and come in and pick it up. And that way we get to see you, which is really great. And did I have anything else? No, I think that's it.
Questions. Questions.
Questions. Oh, yes. If you would like to ask questions during this program, you can go to the Q&A bar, which is at the bottom, or it's on your screen, and you can type in your question, and then we will answer all of your questions at the end of the program when Dr. Levesque finishes. And if you have any questions right now, you can let me know and I can answer those, but hopefully you won't for the time being. We have 29 people on this call, which is great, and maybe a few more will be joining us. We had 45 people that signed up. We started this program back in September, and we did it for September, October, November, and then we're going to do it now January, February, March, April, and May. And then we'll start it up again in September of 2021. So Dr. Levesque, you may turn on your screen, please.
Okay. All right.
Hi, Dr. Levesque. So I'm going to introduce you to everyone on our program that's listening in. This is Adrian Levesque, who is a doctor of dental surgery, graduated from Assumption College in 1960, and he went on to Georgetown University School of Dentistry and finished in '64. And he's been practicing now in Nashua until he retired. He went on a trip to Guatemala back in 2015. And then he helped to start an NGO down there to support midwives. And they received a global grant from the Rotary Foundation, which is dedicated to improving the training and the skills of the midwives by using supplies that are donated from organizations here in this country, as well as from Partners for World Health. So it helps to teach women to grow their own vegetables and medicinal herbs. And over the 2-year period, these midwives have successfully delivered over 900 babies and really started to impact hundreds of lives. So we welcome you here this evening, Dr. Levesque, and please share your screen and we will look forward to hearing from you.
All right.
Thank you.
All
Now,
right.
can you get out of it, Zoe?
Neat. Okay. Slideshow. Okay. Can you see me? How is everything?
I can see you. I can't see your screen.
You can't see my screen.
No.
Okay. All right. So how are we going to do that?
Click the share screen button at the bottom.
I did. Yeah.
Did you click PowerPoint?
I'm clicking desktop number 1
Okay,
and share.
there we go.
Okay. And now you see me.
Yes.
Okay.
Gotta get his phone.
All right. So let's get the slideshow started. Well, hello, everyone. This story, like Elizabeth said, began 6 years ago in March of 2015. My wife Jane and I planned a trip to the Caribbean. And here we are, here's our ship. And usually what happens on these trips is you stop at different ports and they have excursions. And one of the ports was in Guatemala, specifically Puerto Barrios. Now, here is a picture of Guatemala in Central America, and here's the Caribbean on the right, and the Port Barrios is just about here. You probably can see my screen. The story behind this Mayan village. That's what it was called. Visit a Mayan village. It started at 8 o'clock in the morning and it ended at 6 o'clock at night. And it was called Actenement. And in the Quiche Mayan language, that means new village. And what happened back in 1992, a Rotarian from South Florida who had a, what they call an interior design landscape business, hired a number of Guatemalan workers. And what was happening is his Guatemalan workers were sending their earnings home. And he was curious. He visited Guatemala to see for himself why they were doing that. And there he found that 5% of indigenous girls, those are the Mayan girls, and 10% of the boys finish high school. Many girls give birth at age 14 and younger. People live on $1 a day. That's $1 US a day. So he decided to leave South Florida. He sold his business and moved to Puerto Barrios in Guatemala, on the east coast of Guatemala, where he started a Rotary Club. And he started a Rotary Club for one reason, was to try to get money to do something for these people, for these youngsters at 14 who have nothing but their future is just going to be poverty. He wanted to start a trade school where they could learn how to do a skill and then go back to their villages and either start a business, but have a worthwhile future. Now the school starts at, it's a 4-year program, and they take kids from 14 to 20. It costs $365 a year per student. And you can sign up and by, sponsoring one student per year if you like. But right now they have 854 students. They have a hospital that services 10,000 people a year. And when they graduate, they have a trade. Thus, they avoid poverty. So this is a close-up of Puerto Barrios. And the ship came in and docked here. And at 8 o'clock, we got into these small boats, motorboats, went out onto the ocean. And here's a close-up of the entrance to the river called Rio Dulce. And this is Livingston. It's a little town right at the entrance. So we traveled for an hour and a half from Puerto Barrios. We entered the river, which is a very tumultuous type of river. And we ended up following a smaller river to this landing. And this is what the river looks like the whole way. We saw a lot of poverty. We saw little kids sitting on the edge of the water like this. We saw houses that looked like this. There was so much poverty, it was unbelievable. Now we ended up at the Actenement village. We were asked before we left to bring school supplies. So we did. We brought 15 pounds of school supplies. They gave us a list of what to get. And these are the guides that took us around. Now we're in a restaurant now. They are training the kids here how to run a restaurant. The next step was to climb this hill, which was not really that steep, really, to the classrooms. And this is what a classroom looks like, right in the jungle. Inside, we found a bunch of kids, and they look healthy. They looked happy. Completely different to what we'd seen on the river. And here they are, they don't have books. They write their own books. One of the secrets was this series of water filters that Rotary provides. Water for the World. It's a project that Rotarians contribute to. And we teach people how to use these filters, how to clean them. And then we give them a filter and we have them use in the village. And then we give them extra ones and we teach them how to use them. So you can see the kids look very healthy. We got a chance to meet some of the teachers. And we went to the next classroom and in the next classroom, and here the students were constructing their own classrooms. Now, Rotarians go there 2 and 3 times a year, work details, and they help construct things and help with the sewerage and everything that goes on with one of these things. So Act Tenement has their own music, and this is the restaurant, and we're about to have a meal. And now they're preparing the food for us. And it didn't look too appetizing, but they did have beer. So I had the beer. It was tough eating a fish with the fish was looking right at you. But, we managed fine. And here are the boats that took us back. An hour and a half ride, which was kind of bumpy ride once we get on the ocean. And on the way back, I took a bunch of pictures. And when I got back home, when I got back to the ship that night, I had my computer with me and I started looking at my pictures. And I happened to notice this little kid over in the middle here at the door. And I got a closer look. And that little kid, from that day on, has affected my life, completely changed me. I often wondered, what was the future for this youngster? I don't even know if it was a boy or girl, but I do notice there was a little truck there, so I assume it's a boy. So we got home. We had a speaker who spoke on Guatemala in my absence. And this is Dr. Jeff Sullender, who's a PhD in nutrition. He visited Guatemala for over 5 years, 2 and 3 times a year, to teach at a midwife school. And these are his slides. He showed pictures of how beautiful the country was. And there he is giving a talk on toxins in food. And he made at least 15 trips on his own to teach there at this school located in Guatemala City. It's called Corazon del Agua, the heart of the Corazon del Agua, the heart of water. I don't understand it any more than a lot of people do, but this is basically Jeff, who got to know quite a few people in Guatemala. And here he is posing for a picture of the class along with the teachers and the students. And one of his slides, he says, Guatemala is one of the most dangerous countries in Central America to give birth, particularly among the indigenous populations, the Maya, who make up the majority of the country. 15 million people, 80% live on less than $2 a day. 33 volcanoes, and most are active. 25 languages. Now these are not Mayan dialects. These are individual languages. 24 individual languages. And I often wondered, why is that? Because there are large distances between villages, poor roads. Hundreds of years ago, these villages, you could only visit them by walking. There was no way there were no trucks and no roads. The country is a rich Mayan culture, deep with ancestral traditions, and it's a 2-hour flight from Miami. Dr. Sullender goes on to say that in rural areas, Mayan women often refuse to go to health centers for fear of discrimination. A Mayan woman, he said, experiencing a complicated birth who doesn't speak Spanish and manages to get to a hospital in rural regions of Guatemala will be left to bleed out and die. Well, that was tough to swallow. I kind of doubted that, but I had to see for myself. 2 women die needlessly every day giving birth, with hemorrhage being the most common cause of death. And here is a picture of the airport with 3 volcanoes in the distance. This is what the country looks like. Very rugged, very difficult to travel. Now here's a Google Earth picture of where we go to our sessions. This is Chi-Chi on the left and another little village on the right. And to get from the village on the left to the right, it's quite a job. These are very, very steep mountains, and it's all switchbacks. This is a typical road in some of these areas. And that little vehicle up at the top, it's called a tuk-tuk. Very interesting to ride in. It's actually a glorified motorcycle or a tricycle. This is where they live. I saw this. 60% of women deliver at home. And it's not very sanitary. This is a typical upscale house, but inside it's very nice. So they don't want it to look very nice inside because there's a lot of theft, a lot of crime in Guatemala. So we knew about Guatemala, learned about Guatemala, and Dr. Marino on the left, his wife, they're both, this is his wife, Lynn, they're both Rotarians, and myself, we decided we had to do something. So for a year, we met weekly at breakfast and along with Dr. Sullender to try to figure out what could we do to turn this thing around in Guatemala. Well, we figured out what to do. We raised $18,000 so we could obtain a Rotary Foundation grant of $72,000. So what we were going to do is this. We were going to hold 5-day roundtable weekends twice a year. The students will arrive on Wednesday and we give them travel vouchers because some of these girls travel 12 hours on a chicken bus to get to the location. And they traveled back. We paid for their hotel and meals. Some of these girls had never been in a hotel. They had no idea that the hotel rooms had bathrooms. They were just totally, they thought they were in heaven. And these were just, you know, pretty nice. They were clean hotels. We provided them with meals from Wednesday to Monday. We paid stipends for the presenters, teachers that we hired. The students traveled home on Monday, but they kept in touch online with a website. And we provided diagnostic tools, and we went there and put the stuff in check bags so we could get through customs. And we figured it cost about $10,000 to $12,000 USD per event, 2 per year, May and October. So we found that there were 3 schools. Not only the school that you see on the left, in the lower left there, that was Jeff with the girls from Corazon del Agua. And Corazon del Agua is affiliated with Galileo University. They have 9 students right now. University Pan America has 40 students, and they're way up in Barelas, which is a very dangerous area. And Da Vinci University in Huehue, they have 65 students. Now, in order to start and get our grant, Rotary expected us to start a cooperative association, an NGO, in Guatemala to act as a support organization for the students and the graduate midwives. So we have websites for members to keep in touch, and also we get additional funds from donations. And we also have asoparpro.org, which has all of the paperwork that we gave them over the years, so that if they needed to look something up, they could go online and they could look things up, so that they wouldn't have to, you know, if they lose their notes or whatever. So here is Guatemala, and the girls came from different areas. So people ask me, why didn't you do it up in Barelas, where there were a lot of girls? Well, Barelas is a very dangerous place to be. So we didn't want to have to worry about the girls. Chi-Chi Castanango right here is 4.5-hour auto ride from Guatemala City. And it's all through mountainous roads. And we made this trip many times. So by giving the girls stipends for travel, they would then, like this girl up here, took her 12 hours. Some of these took longer than that to get to, we're up to Chichi. Chichi seemed to be a better location for everybody, and it's a safe town, and there's not much poverty there. So Galileo University is supported by Every Mother Counts, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. University Pan America, UPANA, is supported by the government, and the girls have to earn part of the tuition. Same thing with Da Vinci University. But Da Vinci has one extra thing. It also has a nursing program to go along with the program of Pateras, which is midwife. So here is it's a 3-year program. It leads to a technical degree. And the grant provides continuing education, access to and training, and the use of diagnostic tools. The objective is saving mothers and children's lives. This is Christy Turlington Burns. She's a model, very famous model. And she started Every Mother Counts. It's an organization that supports midwives worldwide. So you get a technical degree after 3 years. What do you have to look forward to? Well, the government puts holdings on how much you can receive for a prenatal exam. 10 quetzales, which is equivalent to about $1.67 US. To monitor an entire pregnancy, including birth and follow-up for a week or so, 500 quetzales, $66 US. If you work in a clinic or a pharmacy or a hospital, you get minimum wage. That's going to change. Some of our friends are in the Ministry of Health. They just took over last year. The new government started in January of 2019, and this is going to change. They're going to get a little more better compensation. Now, you can't do this alone. You can't do this with the Rotary Club, because our host club in Guatemala is a necessary tool. They take care of the finances and reimburse these people. Now, the person on the left, her name is Ana Patricia Frankie Zamora. We call her Pati for short. Her husband, Oscar, the next person over, Oscar Adolfo Martinez Rodas. This man had a story to tell, and I'll tell him in a minute. And of course, there's Dr. Sullender, who assists us, and one of the midwife girls. Now, the way they spell their names, work their names, is Ana Patricia. It's Anna is her first name. Patricia is her middle name. Frankie is her father's name, okay? And Zamora is her mother's name. So there are 4 names in a person. So it gets a little confusing. Oscar, I asked Oscar when we first started, why are you guys, they're not Mayan, either one of them are Mayan, why are you so involved with the midwives? And the Mayans specifically. He told me that 10 years ago, Patty was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer, and they gave her a few months to live. They tried chemo, but she got very sick and gave up on the chemo. And she heard about a Mayan priestess who does miracle things. And she figured, why not? So she visited this Mayan priestess, and with medicinal herbs and whatever they've been doing for centuries, she started to feel better. And 6 months later, she went back to the doctor, and she was in complete remission. Now, Oscar says he had his doubts, but he doesn't have his doubts anymore. Now, I met this priestess. She's 4 feet tall, and she has an aura of her that sends a chill up your spine when you meet her. So I don't know what her powers are, or what she does or what the midwife, what the Mayan culture does. But people from all over the world come and seek her out. And she's had a lot of success. So what are we bringing them? Well, we decided to bring stethoscopes at first and blood pressure cuffs. A stethoscope costs $90 in Guatemala, $90 US. And these girls can't even afford anything. So to get a stethoscope, that's really something. Suture kits, hemoglobin meters to measure for anemia, baby Dopplers, which are ultrasound machines, glucose meters, urinalysis test strips when you're out in those villages and you have nothing else. And one of the big hits, Partners for World Health birthing kits. Let me tell you, those things were so handy. Infant ambu bags, finger pulse oximeters, CPR training set, an abdominal palpation model that I'll show in a few minutes, and training. And we let them practice on each other. And most of all, we give them respect for their Mayan traditions. We have to try not to fall into the trap that we are better than these people. They, the Maya, have been around for a long time, centuries. They have evolved an art of healing that is mostly ignored by Western medicine. A way of giving birth, for example, does not require a special table with stirrups. They use medicinal herbs for a variety of illnesses that seem to work. They seem to get results with this stuff. Our program is to give them some of our diagnostic tools along with training and allow them to merge these tools into their art of healing. An example is the art of suturing. We provided them with suture kits and training because hemorrhage is one of the biggest causes of maternal mortality. So our first clinical roundtable weekend was held on November 24th, 2017 in the city of Antigua, Guatemala, which is about 50 miles west of Guatemala City. This was not a very elaborate one. This was mostly a discussion group with a number of people telling their stories, telling their experiences. And it was in a very nice hotel. We got to meet the girls. We got to understand their needs. And of course, we gave them the stethoscopes. And there's Jeff. And a lot of these girls keep coming to all of our sessions. But at the end of the session, we present them with a diploma. It gives them something to brag about. It gives them something, you know, we tell them that we respect the fact that they're Mayans, they're midwives, and they help people. This is Greg. Greg is my counterpart at the Rotary Club that's called Ciudad de Guatemala, or City of Guatemala. It's the oldest Rotary Club in Guatemala, and they have acted as our host club for this project. And before they go home, we pose for pictures, and you can see some of the items that we gave them. And we provided them with bags so they get on the chicken buses so that they can go home and all their stuff is together. At the second session, we decided to try Guatemala City because it was less expensive. And what you see there are capsule machines. We provided each girl with a capsule machine and with a whole supply of medicinal herbs. And they do with the capsule machines, they actually make capsules. Then they sell these capsules to make money. It's one of their only ways of getting money. And this is what the abdominal palpation birth delivery model is. It's quite interesting. I had a trouble getting through customs with this thing because of that skeleton, but you see there, this is a teacher on the left. That is Carolina. And this is Gabriel in the middle. He's a Rotarian who came down to visit us. And Dora Marie on the right is one of the midwives who's been to every single one of our sessions. Now, hemoglobin meter. This is Oscar. Oscar speaks 3 or 4 languages, but he speaks English very well. He developed a program that is used by some of the banks around New England. It's called Riverbed. And that's what he did. That's his business. So his business of dealing with foreign countries came in very handy about 3 weeks ago. So we test for anemia with these hemoglobin meters. And the reason is that the mother's at risk of going into shock when delivering if she's very anemic. So they try to build her up with iron deficiency tablets. And here they are, the girls are practicing on themselves. And this is the palpation model again, showing there are 6 different positions a baby can be in when they're born. So this was very handy because the teacher told me that she was using a basket with the bottom cut out to demonstrate how to do this, but this made it more real. Now, when they got home in Barillas, these girls were demonstrating the use of this model with other girls from the school. This is Upana University. And here they are showing how to find the position of the head. I learned how to do that. And I can actually tell you where the head and the feet are on a pregnant woman. It was very important information that I needed to know. So some of the things that happened in Guatemala when we were there. This is La Reunion Resort in April of 2018. The mountain in the back, the volcano, is called Fuego. It's fire. Fuego erupted in April of 2018. And there's a village on the left-hand side, and a village was evacuated. But the volcano didn't get any further than this, and it soon quieted down. So when the people returned to their villages, they found they had been ransacked and a lot of things were stolen. So I was there in May of 2018. On June 2nd, this is what happened to La Reunion Resort. And the people in the village on the upper left-hand side, that's where the village was. They didn't leave, they didn't evacuate this time because they figured it was just another false alarm. And 250 people lost their lives. Now that ash is 1,500 degrees and it's about 8 to 10 feet deep. So this is what they have to put up with. Our third roundtable weekend, we decided we'd go to Chi-Chi. That's where Patty and Oscar, and it's a much safer place. The girls can wear their uniforms. Each village that they come from has a separate style of clothes, and they make their own clothes. But when they were in Guatemala City for the second event, what happened there was we had to dress them up as Americans with jeans with holes in them. So they would not be singled out as Mayan because the discrimination is very, very bad there. So that was in October of 2018. And this is our venue. The pink building is a very nice building, very clean. And right across the street was the caterer. So we had it was very nice. And you can see the houses aren't too bad from the houses I showed you before. So it's more like a middle class community there. Very nice. I never felt in danger, even at night. Now, here is Carolina, the teacher, along with Dora Marie, teaching these 2 Rotarians the 6 different positions the baby can be. So That's how interested they were. They always came, the Rotarians always came on the Saturday, even though some of them had to drive 4.5 miles, 4.5 hours each way to get there. So we gave them stethoscopes and of course the suture kits, very handy. Suture kits were very handy. And here is suture, here are the two of the girls from Upana doing suture practice on beef steaks. Very handy, very important. So here's a group picture. Gabrielle on the left is a Rotarian. Greg is on the right. You see Jeff is up in the middle. Pati is to his right. Now, Nashville High South has an Interact Club. Interact Club is kind of like a Rotary club for high school kids. And what they do basically is they raise money and they do something good for the community. Well, what they did is they raised $1,250, gave us a check for $1,250 so we could buy baby Dopplers for the girls. And here are the girls with their baby Dopplers and a group picture. Pati's up on the left there, myself, Ernie Marino came with me, and this doctor who's a chiropractor, and a few of the girls. Most of these girls have been with us for the whole period. They keep coming back, although we have picking up these 2 new schools. And urinalysis test strips, you can bring those down. Those are very handy. We gave them out, and then we had them practice on each other. And I thought this was going to be a real mess, but the girls did a very good job. They tested themselves. There were 10 different things they could test for. So this worked out very well. And then we also brought them glucose monitoring kits and the birthing kits. Right at the bottom there, the surgical instrument packet, very, very handy. I mean, if you think about it, I gave away 25 at one of the sessions, and they got used up the next week. Just think of that blanket down there, and you remember the houses, how sparse they look and very dirty. And one of the girls sent me a picture. This is Angelina. She sent me a picture of one of the little hats that you find in the kits. So, the births in Guatemala. Every time we went to Guatemala, we'd get there, we would leave on a Tuesday, and on Wednesday noon, we always attended the Rotary meeting for our host club. This is the meeting on October 16th, 2019. And he talked about births in Guatemala and about the infants who die. 60% of infants die in the first month. Half of the remaining die before age 5. Mostly malnutrition, contaminated water, and those that survive by age 5 cannot comprehend basic math. Well, I really needed to learn more about this. And this was the problem. Tortrix. They're cheese snap, they're these corn chips. For 50 cents, one bag feeds one child all day. This is what they eat. And this was what the Rotarians were trying to change. Got to do something about feeding these kids, because by the time they're 6, 7, or 8 years old, they can't even do basic math. They can't comprehend it. It's just sad. So nutrition was the next step. We were going to teach them how to grow their own food. Remember, Guatemala has growing season is 12 months. So they can grow a lot of different things, a lot of fruits and vegetables. They just don't have access to or the knowledge. But they can grow corn, and there's tons of corn everywhere you look. So for free, you can get pellets from manufacturers that they throw out. And then, because they have Home Depots there, you can buy the plastic bags, to line these things. And then we taught them how to mix the gravel with the loam. And the Rotarians from another Rotary club provided the fertilizer. And when they were finished, they had a nice little garden that you could set up at home and just cover it with clear plastic. And now you have a little greenhouse. And the reason they want to put a cover over it is they don't want rain. It rains there a lot. And especially during the rainy season, they don't want the rain to destroy the crops. They just want to have a drip technique that just so much water and the food will grow. And they have medicinal herbs in there that they can, put together with their capsule machines, and they dry the materials and they sell it. We also brought CPR to Guatemala. We hired these guys, the EMCs, to give some training, and they're training the adults. And one of the things they asked for were the ambu bags for the infants. So we got them a bunch of ambu bags, taught them how to use it. So how do we measure success? We do it, number one, by giving them a questionnaire to fill out. The Rotary wants us to answer these questions. How many gynecological exams were done between November of 2017 and the last meeting we had, which is October 2019? So we did over almost 5,000 exams. And the girls delivered 909 babies. And out of those exams, 619 were compromised. They found problems with the mothers that needed to be seen by a hospital or a clinic. 396 went to the hospital. Why? Because maybe they knew Spanish. But 223 would not go. So the girls accompanied them to the hospital and advocated for them so that they wouldn't be left to die on a table. Sad but true, this happens. So our roundtable weekends, we did Antigua, the first one, Guatemala City, the second one, and Chichi, the last three. The May 2020 was canceled because of COVID. October canceled. And we just had the January 6th one canceled 2 weeks ago. Now, girls, one of the girls sent me this. This was done by the government from January to November of 2020. And they had 54,422 babies born. 52,942 of the pregnant women, the mothers, were between the age of 15 and 19. And 1,480 of the mothers were between the age of 10 and 14. Now, I sent this to Angelina, who was in the nursing school there, and I asked her if this was true. And she said yes. She's following a 14-year-old right now who's about to give birth any minute. And she was telling me that the situation with the COVID is so bad that the mothers are having their babies on the street and leaving them and walking away because they can't afford to raise them. So we had some special midwives here. The one in the center here, below, right here, this is Angelina. She's the leader. She got these 6 girls, to accompany her to a village that is inaccessible for 6 months because of the rainy season. They had to hike 4 hours to get to this village. They spent a week there teaching the midwives and teaching the pregnant women about nutrition and how to deliver babies, whatever. This particular village has the highest maternal death rate in all of Guatemala. So she decided she was going to do something about it. On her own, she went out and got those girls to go with her. So we presented these 5 girls, actually they were just 5, with a certificate, and in the bags that you see there, we gave them each a hemoglobin meter. Those were $250 a piece. This is daughter Marie. She get lectures to midwives and to pregnant women all the time. This is Angelina. She works in a pharmacy now. She gets minimum wage. This is Angelina a few years ago, teaching after coming to some of our sessions. And here's another girl teaching. Now, these girls are very interesting. You know, I had my computer with me, and my wife and I had just got back from Iceland. And I was just kind of looking at the pictures. And before you know it, I had a crowd observing. Now, none of these girls are ever going to go to Iceland. If they do, it's going to be a miracle. But they had no idea there was such a beautiful place. So we went through all the pictures. I'll tell you, these girls are very dedicated, and we're always posing with pictures. Now, this is Assopar. This is the group that we started. It's an NGO. I'm going to end with this. I'm going to tell you a story. Back in July of 2019, I was getting ready to go for the weekend. It was a Friday. I was just about to get in the car, and my phone pinged, and I looked, and it was a long text by one of the girls. So I don't speak Spanish. I don't understand Spanish. I have to run to my computer and turn on Google Translate. I found out that this girl, this young midwife, was trying to save this baby's life. She had been up all night with the kid. Kid had a very high fever, and she had no place to go. She didn't know where there was a pharmacy, and she had no access to anything and no help. And she was afraid she was going to lose the baby. And she contacted me. She didn't contact Pati. She contacted me. Why? I don't know. So I started a text with WhatsApp. I contacted Patty, and I didn't hear any more. So Saturday, Sunday, Monday, I worried about this kid. You know, what happened? So Monday, I got this picture. It said, La bébé está bien. She's recuperated. Well, I needed to find out what happened. Patty said she contacted two of the girls that were in a village nearby who had access to antibiotics. They were trained on how to administer antibiotics in our sessions. We had pharmaceutical representatives from different companies that gave talks and gave the physiology behind some of these medicines, and this kid survived. And so that's what this little kid started back in 2015. And I thank you for listening.
Where am I?
You can talk.
Dr. Levesque, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are there any questions?
Some chat here.
So actually, I have a question.
Okay.
Yeah, when you were talking about the pregnant girls, the ones from 10 to 15 and then 15 to 19, I think. So why are they, is this from incest or rape?
Well, I don't know. This actually, most of the time of this study was done during the COVID, because it was from January to November. So most of the time it was doing that, but I don't know. There's an awful lot of stuff going on there that we have no control over.
Right. It would be interesting to have them ask those questions too. I'm sure they probably did, but maybe they just didn't report it.
I didn't, when I saw 10 to 14, I have a granddaughter who's 10, and I just can't imagine her having a baby. 10 years old. It's over 1,400 of them. And, when I sent this to Angelina and I said, is this true? She says, yeah, it's true. It's pretty bad. But when they're dropping their babies on the street, that's sad too.
Well, I think that a topic for conversation is that we run Project 10,000, which is interviewing pregnant women and providing education and training for them on the complications of pregnancy. And when we were in Uganda in January of 2020, we were going through our interview process with our form, and we found this young girl who was about 15 who was pregnant. She was about 8 months pregnant. And the person that interviewed her didn't, took the age down. And when I finally saw the paper, I said, where is this girl? And she hadn't left yet, which was good. And to explore more with the story, found out that she had been raped by an uncle. And the father found out about it, and the father pursued arrest of the uncle, and that this man was now in prison for rape. And of course, now what happens with that, and it's the same with these young girls that you're talking about, they don't go to school. They have to, somebody's got to stay home and take care of the baby if they keep the baby, or the baby dies, or the baby's left on the street or left at an orphanage someplace for somebody else to care for. So it's a real impact in the education of women, education of girls, the education of women, because they don't go to school, they don't get a good job. And so it's the whole sociology of the family and the continuing to keep people in poverty. So it's very interesting to try to find out those statistics. And that's what we're trying to do with Project 10,000, is to really find out. In this girl's situation, we were able to refer her on to a social service agency. And when she delivered her baby, and the whole concept of adoption was explained to her, and she was able to have her baby adopted. So big challenges out there, that when people are so overwhelmed because of just the conditions of living, like what you experienced, what you were doing for them in Guatemala, it's so hard to find some of those answers sometimes. It's really a challenge.
I know. And women are treated like cattle. A woman can't, for example, testify against a man in the Guatemalan courts. Woman has no say in anything. And one of the girls was telling me that her mother was killed by her father. They got into an argument on a street corner, and he pushed her in front of a rolling bus, a moving bus, and killed her. And people all around had witnessed it, but he got away with it because there were only women around there who saw it.
Right.
Isn't that amazing? I mean, that culture has to change, but we're looking at it from our, rose-colored glasses, I guess.
So we have a few other questions here from
Sure.
some people. So Laura Parson is asking, how old are the midwife students and how do they find out about their trainings?
They're about 18 years old. They have to have a grammar school education, eighth grade, and a midwife has to sponsor her. So a regular midwife would sponsor her. And then the girl has to raise money for school on her own. Some of the school is about half of the tuition is subsidized by the government. Every mother counts, paid 100% for the girls in Corazon del Agua.
Yes, and Dr. Kirchi mentioned that in his question. He's wondering if there was government support for medical support. So they provide the funding for the education for these young girls to become midwives?
Yes, they do. They do subsidize, yes. And the new government, like I mentioned, started in January last year, 2020. And we have friends who are on the Ministry of Health, and they're making some changes. so that they get, paid a little bit more than minimum wage for, delivering a baby and following a woman for 9 months and, and beyond, and teaching nutrition and all this. So things are changing in that regard.
A few other questions, Dr. Levesque. Dennis Lever, who's actually traveled with Partners for World Health, asks, have you had success sharing your story here in the US, and have others begun to support your effort by visiting Guatemala with you?
No, we haven't had people come with us to Guatemala, no, except Rotarian. Ernie Marino has accompanied me twice. Jeff Sullender has accompanied me a few times. As far as that goes, people are afraid in a way. I never felt threatened in Guatemala, even outside at night, in the city, or Go ahead. Am I answering the question? Did I get the whole?
Yeah, and have you had success sharing your story elsewhere in the United
Oh,
States?
yes, I give this talk. I've given this talk about 20 times now to different Rotary clubs.
Yeah.
I have maybe 30 slides. I had 102 slides this time, but yeah, I'm giving another one in the beginning of February to another Rotary club. So Rotary clubs have contributed money to this, and we have an account just for that and it's a National Rotary Charity Fund, and we get money and we put it aside. Now we just mailed a package to Guatemala. It left Nashua November 12th and it arrived last Saturday. And it was supposed to go to the Rotary Club, which is a nonprofit down there, but they failed to renew their nonprofit status. And and they didn't let me know until after the package was in the mail.
Okay.
So when it got to Miami, I had to get somebody to open the package up and change the address and change the invoice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And the trick is to use an invoice, and you have, it was $2,600 worth of medical supplies. And I totaled it out to $109. And I said it was prepaid. So good thing we had Oscar, who is chairman of an independent nonprofit in Guatemala City, all right, knew the man in in Miami, who ran the company where the package went to,
Mm-hmm.
the transfer area, and he knew them personally, and he opened the package, changed the invoice, and it went on to Guatemala, and we had to pay, I think it was close to 28% of $109.
Well, we're glad that you were able to get it there. So Dr. Kirchi has another question. Is there any national health insurance in Guatemala?
Good question. I don't know. They don't charge for going to the hospital. It's all it's like Canada. It's not, you don't, unless
The government is paying for providing the services for free.
Yeah, but I mean, you still have to, in other words, if you wanted to have something that was done that was, not a surgical thing, necessary thing, you would have to pay for it yourself.
Right. So Cassidy Rollins is asking, does the Mayan culture and practices change the way laboring and birthing is experienced rather than here in the United States?
Yes,
Yes.
even with a placenta.
Yeah. For example, they don't throw away the placenta. I had pictures I didn't show today because they were too gross, really, to some people.
Graphic.
But they take the placenta and chop it up in little pieces, and they put it in a drying machine, and they run it all night, and then it comes out, they grind it down, put it in capsules.
Mhm.
And I asked the girls, I asked the last Patty, she says, we don't have any postpartum depression here. Now, whether that's the cause, whether that's what but they don't throw anything away.
Well, we need to get better at that here, not necessarily grinding down the placenta, but we're trying to recycle and reuse and reprocess things and save. We need to think before you throw things away.
Yeah.
And Lois has let's see, hold on, we have a few more questions here. What do you do if you need a C-section? What happens if one of these women needs a C-section?
If you need a C-section and you cannot speak Spanish, you're out of luck. Unless you can find someone who can speak Spanish and your native language, which there are 24.
But
And
if one of these girls, one of these midwives runs into a complication and they know this woman's going to die if they don't have a C-section, what happens? Do they provide the transportation to the hospital?
They do. They take them to the hospital, and in many cases, it's in the back of a pickup truck.
Right. So in other words, they make an effort to get someone to the hospital, and then the hospital would do the surgery.
Absolutely, yeah. When they use those devices we gave them and they see a problem, the first thing they do is refer out to a hospital. And if the woman won't go to the hospital, they will accompany them.
Okay. Yeah. Well,
The
that's
discrimination is very, very high there.
right. We also have a question from Lois Lefevre. Do you give this presentation to other Rotary clubs, which you did answer in New England? And then she's just commenting, kudos to you for all you've done for these women and children. You're one of God's angels.
Thank
So
you.
we want to thank you very much for your time here this evening and your presentation.
And and those kits
Oh, the
came
birthday.
in very handy, and they use them. And they
That's
send
great.
me pictures of them with the little hats. Yeah.
Well, we're glad to provide them. If people that are on, Partners for World Health makes birthing kits that we make out of all of the items that are donated that come in our medical supplies, and they were designed by a labor and delivery nurse. So it's basically everything that you need for a normal delivery.
Yes.
And so which means that we give those in our travels to pregnant women so they can take them to the midwife when they go into labor, and they don't have to pay for things. They don't have to go out and buy the sterile gloves or buy the suture or buy the scissors or buy the cord clamp, that type of thing, which in many instances happens in very underdeveloped countries in our world.
Yeah.
So any other comments, Dr. Levesque, or anyone else?
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
Well, you're very welcome. And thank you for presenting for us this evening. There'll be a little surprise arriving in the mail for you as a thank you.
Oh, wonderful.
We ordinarily would give it to you here, but you're not.
Yeah,
so
I know.
Life changes here in the COVID times.
Right.
So we do have our 3 prizes tonight, our 3 door prizes. So we're going to, Zoe and I are here. Zoe is our volunteer coordinator.
Hi, everyone. Thank you guys for joining us tonight.
Yes. And we are going to pull a name out of the hat. Zoe, please pull one. There you go. Pull a name out of the Saudi Arabian basket. And this one goes to Neil Levesque. This is a basket that was,
Gosh,
is Neil your son?
yeah,
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Kristen's brother.
Kristen's
Kristen's
brother.
brother. So Kristen Levesque is also on our member of our board of directors here.
Right. That's right. Yeah.
So we will make sure that your son, via your daughter, receives his prize tonight.
Right.
Okay, next one is this is a little vase from Peru. Goes to Tina Brown. Tina Brown, are you still with us, Tina?
If you're here, Tina, you can just type in the chat.
If you're here, Tina, can you type in the chat?
No, she's not.
She's not. Okay, we're pulling another name. This is for Tara Vogel.
Oh,
It's Kristen's
how about
sister.
that?
It's Kristen's sister.
Kristen's sister.
Family affair tonight.
Oh.
Okay, Tara Vogel is Kristen's sister. So Kristen will be picking that up too. And then we have one more thing. This wasn't rigged. Look, we really promise you.
This was rigged, yeah.
And this one is Mary Berg. Mary Berg. And Mary is here. So Mary, this is a journal, leather-bound journal, and you can swing by and pick it up anytime. It'll be in Zoe's office. So we want to thank everyone here this evening for coming and participating and listening. And to remind everyone that we will have, our next one will be February 25th to talk about surgical interventions in underdeveloped countries in Africa. And then we'll have another, then International Women's Day is coming up on March 8th. So if anyone has any interest or knows of other people that are interested in volunteering here at Partners for World Health, we run our orientations 3 to 4 times a month through Zoom at the moment, and some in person on Saturdays. If we have 3 or 4 people coming in as a group, we'd be happy to welcome you, because we have a lot to do around here. We need to generate 2,000 boxes every month in order to keep up with shipping 2 containers a month out of here. And that's what we're doing. We're going for it. So we shall thank you for coming, and we look forward to staying in touch. Thank you very much. Bye. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.